It is good as Kuma, and this is going to be my tutorial on how to speedrun the game Ys 9 Monstrum Nox for the PC, specifically the category of any percent on PC, which is its own separate category. For various different reasons, we separate the games based on console. First thing is we do this run with both a keyboard, as I have here, and a controller. I use a DualShock 4, that's just personal preference. I used to use a DualShock 5, or sorry, not DualShock 5, DualSense, the PS5 controller, and an Xbox One controller before that. Whatever works best for you. Any of those are fine. It's just we run with controller and keyboard for reasons I'll get into once we get into the run itself. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do in Steam, assuming you're running this on Steam, if you're running this on some other version, not entirely sure how they would get that set up, but for Steam specifically, this is how we do this. You're going to want to bind whatever you have as your dodge roll or evade button and your character swap button to a separate button, or to the same button, separate from those original buttons. It makes a difference in how we do dodge rolls in midair, or sorry, character swaps in midair, and it also makes one trick significantly less finicky to work. You don't strictly have to do this, but this makes things so much easier that I just recommend doing it anyway. In my case, I went into the controller configurations, which if you press Shift-Tab while you're on Steam, you can go there. And then I bound my my R1 button, or right bumper, to circle and L1. So when I press R1, it presses both of those buttons at the same time. So we'll get into more of why we have this set up this way. You're going to want it to be something that you can also press the jump button at roughly the same time, pretty easily. So if you have it bound to something like select and up, that might be a little difficult. So you're going to want it to be something that is relatively easy to reach. So before we get started on any runs, we want to go into config. Now, most of these buttons, that's just how I have this controller set up. You don't need to follow any of the gamepad buttons here. Just do whatever works for you. My setup is just how I have it set up based on how kind of a similar control scheme to what was used for Salcedo on the PSTV. So that's why mine looks radically different from default. That's not super important, just do whatever is comfortable for you. The big thing we're going to want to keep in mind is that we want keyboard and mouse controls. You want to know what you have bound for your jump button. In my case, it's space. I recommend space for this personally because it's a very easily accessible button, and we're going to be using that several times throughout the run. And then you're going to want to go into this menu, and the first thing is you'll see that the main menu button here is bound to the keyboard for space and T. That is the same as my jump button. So when I press space, I will jump and open the menu on the same frame. This is critical for one of our tricks. The other thing is I have it also bound to my T key. We go into the submenu, you can see T is what my Crimson Line is. You're going to want to have main menu and Crimson Line bound as your secondary keyboard function here, because you want to be able to press those at the same time. Finally, M is my map key. Again, this is preference, but you want to have the map menu within reach. And everything else is just based on personal preference. Next up, the game options. I don't personally know if these really do much, considering we just skip cutscenes anyway, but I have them set this way. Everything else is preference. Language, as far as I'm aware, display text and voice don't really make a difference in this, so go with whatever works for you. The graphics are the one that we really want to get into. First of all, resolution, if you can, you're going to want this at 1920 by 1080. If you can't do that based on your monitor or whatever, it only makes a very, very small difference, but if you're trying to go for like maximum optimization, it does make one trick require a few less inputs. Currently, we allow VSync turned off and frame rate maxed out at 144. My PC only runs at a 60 hertz resolution, or it runs at 60 hertz, but this just makes the game run faster. FOV, set it however you like. Says higher values can have a little bit of performance impact, but I've never particularly noticed it. This is just what's comfortable for me. And then most everything else I have set pretty much as low as it'll go. Shadows kind of stink. Draw distance default. And then sampling rate at 0.75. Makes the game look kind of grainy, but it does help performance a little bit because my PC is kind of like on the middle end. And then most everything else, you just set the options to the left option here. Like turn off load tips, standby tips, and then you're going to want to turn off successful actions for breaks and skill finishes here, because that wastes a little bit of time. And then make sure your ally's behavior is set to offense. This saves a very marginal amount of time, but it's still worth doing. So that's it basically for options. The other thing you're going to want to do before getting into any runs is load maps. This game is kind of annoying in how it stores, the maps and how it loads them. So the first time you're going to want to load a map that is in Balduq. As you can see, the load time here is quite extensive. Alright, and then now when I go to load this save file again, the load takes considerably less time. The other map you're going to want is Balduq Prison. You can also accomplish this by starting a new game and then just exiting out and then starting a new game again. I just have a map here in Balduq Prison that works for this. Some other maps might make a small amount of difference depending on your PC that we go to in the run. Yore, this area, Concealed Path of Chapter 4. And, let's see, one for Cloaca Maxima. I already had this map loaded beforehand, but yeah. So I have some save files that already are there, and those load those maps, so that when we get started, load times aren't going to impact things. Unfortunately, we don't have a load remover just yet. Otherwise, that really wouldn't be necessary. When we finally do get that, you won't need to worry about those, but yeah, just to keep in mind. For real-time runs, basically. Alright, let's go ahead and get started on the run here. We do not allow the acquired bonus items to be used, so make sure you select no if you have save file for ES8 or ESelSata. So, there's going to be a lot of cutscene skips in this run. I personally just kind of have circle as my cancel button and X as my confirm button, and I just kind of rub my thumb across them like this. Or I just kind of rock my thumb between the two, depending on what the cutscene is and how many text boxes I'm going to have to do.
That's impossible. You'd have to have a death wish to try to escape this place.
Report! Report!
What is it?
There's been an escape from the East Wing
So,
cell block.
just hold down sprint and just keep running. That's most of what you're going to be doing in this run.
How the hell? See you.
Let's get through here. So we're going to get a tutorial here, skip a text box, and then just mash confirm and then cancel once we hear the sound of the sword being equipped. Roll over here, skip this, roll through here, skip this. Next thing I'm going to teach you is attack roll canceling. What it basically is you press the attack button and the roll like a frame afterwards. You kind of get this like flopping animation when you perform this correctly. And there's a sort of rhythm to it. If you try and go too fast, you just end up slamming into the ground, which wastes time. So just kind of practice the rhythm of this. And this moves a little bit faster than normal whenever you have a weapon equipped. But yeah, like you can see, I'm just not getting as many rolls. Come on. Yeah, it does make a difference. The next thing to keep in mind is when you're going downhill, don't be doing attack roll canceling because you just kind of stab into the ground and that wastes time. If you're going up a slope, you can just kind of mash like really fast. So, get these guys out of the way. So, just for demonstration there. You'll want to practice attack roll canceling. Alright, so this cutscene right here, immediately afterwards we transform into our Monstrum form, and the game wants us to Crimson Line upwards. You're actually going to want to buffer a little bit by doing a roll and then doing Crimson Line, and this is so that you don't completely run yourself out of stamina when you do the first Crimson Line, because there's one almost immediately thereafter. So, skip. And then instead of immediately Crimson Line, I'm going to roll forward and then do it, so I still have a little bit of stamina for this next part. I'm going to tilt the camera and then roll off to the side, and there's a Crimson Line point over here. So now I save time by not having to wait for my stamina to replenish. There's another one right here. There's a bit of a weird camera angle there. Double jump, roll, double jump, roll, stab. And then on to the first boss. Alright, so this is Maretudo, the first boss of the run. And honestly, some of the last bits of combat we're going to be doing for a while. The thing to keep in mind with this fight is you're going to want to lock onto him immediately and then Crimson Lion directly into him, and then we're going to be using our Demonic Pierce skill, which is bound currently to the right button or circle button on my controller. And just spam that, and when we run out of stamina, we're going to be wanting to do a downward thrust attack, which is jump into attack, or jump into roll and then into attack. And that replenishes stamina fairly quickly. I intersperse that with basic attack combos, which is just attack, 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 and then whenever I have enough SP, I just use Demonic Pierce again. And that's kind of just the bread and butter combo for this fight. And then make sure you get the flash guard timing down for this guy's attacks. So unfortunately, when this cutscene, or this prompt comes up, I lose my lock-on and whatever flash guard crits that I have. So I'm going to want to immediately lock onto him again before attacking. That was strange. He doesn't usually roll away like that. Alright. There's a bunch of different ways this fight can go. So just kind of do attempts and you'll kind of get the hang of it. But yeah. The mid-air downward thrust attack is just a great way to replenish SP. And you intersperse that with your basic attack combos. We'll have one more fight with Adol once we get to the first raid, and then his combat's really not going to matter going forward. Talk to this gentleman here, and we're going to get straight into prison. As soon as we get into the cell, we're going to want to talk to the door and then hide a fork in the bed. We skip that event. We do not want to skip this one. Otherwise, the game will not advance. So next thing we do is we go to the bed. We go out the door here. Now, the thing about this door is it sucks. The talk box on it is very small, and you're probably just going to end up jumping around the cell a few times, unless you kind of, like, get the positioning right. It's deceptive, it's annoying, it costs every runner time. It's just an unfortunate thing that I have to deal with as a runner of this game. But you will probably lose more seconds in that cell than... I mean, every runner has done so more times than they'd like to admit. Alright, so now we're heading off to what will become the Dandelion later. So as soon as we get over here, we do not want to skip this cutscene until we have confirmed that we want to go into the basement. So now we go into the basement, get our disguise. And then as we go up the stairs here, it's actually faster to mash jump. And that is the quickest way out of the dandelion. A thing you might notice is Balduq kind of does not run very well. It's just kind of how this game is. So for this scene right here, for whatever reason, you can't just hit cancel to skip all of these cutscenes. So like this one right here, hitting cancel doesn't skip, so I actually have to press the options button to cancel that. And then same for that cutscene. Thankfully we only have to deal with that in this raid and like one other scene. Otherwise I can just use cancel to skip cutscenes. So for this, it's always going to be center, right, left in terms of enemy spawns. And it's usually 4 or 1 enemy, ending with one of these like tall skeleton dudes. Forget what their exact name is, but yes, there's 4 there, and then not skeleton dudes, these guys. I don't know what you call these guys. I call them skeleton dudes because they make me think of a skeleton for some reason. But yeah, so there's 4 enemies there. Once those are gone, we move over to the left. 1, 2, and then one of these guys. That'll end this particular mob. 3 of these guys, and then one of these guys. And then this should be the last wave on this particular spawn here. That one's only 3, and then there's 4 here, and there's going to be 3 of these guys. Yeah, if we get lucky, Aprilis does that. Its jump attack is the easiest flash guard to get in this part, so if you find the opportunity, go for it. And then next up is the final wave, which is just kill this giant dog. Sometimes he locks onto the Sphen, and then you have to Crimson Line after him, otherwise he locks onto you. Yep. So he locked onto the Sphen. So his easiest attacks to deal with are like this pounce attack, and then sometimes he's going to do a midair spin. He kind of like winds his tail up, and then he does a spin. In that instance, you usually want to jump as he's winding up, and then flash guard as you're falling down. But yeah, you get kind of a feel for that particular enemy. But that's it for the first and only raid of the run. Worth noting, we get a life elixir, which we are going to sell later. So just skip all these cutscenes, and that is it for Chapter 1. We're going to want to pick up 2 elixirs, one of which I'm going to grab fairly early on in this portion. There is a backup one in case you missed that one, so I will show you that one just to make sure. Alright, so now if you try to leave Balduq, you get these mandatory cutscenes here. So now one thing I will demonstrate here, if you didn't get this warp point on the way to the bulletin board here, get it now. Like, it'll save you a bit of time, so you're going to want to get it before going to the bulletin board usually, but if you miss it, it's not really a big deal. Like, you're going to want to get it on the second way back if you missed it the first time. So now we go to this fountain here. You want to get this landmark for a warp point, which we're going to immediately use and then use several times throughout the run. Talk to these guys, and then we're going to warp out. So tap the mini-map and then down once. Sorry, I pressed it twice by mistake. So tap the mini-map, down once, confirm, and then move to Fountain Plaza. Go over to the armor. We just need to talk to him, so we don't need to actually buy anything. So skip this text prompt, and then cancel, just mash cancel. And then we're going to warp down here. That's 2 inputs down to main gate. Talk to the doctor here. And those are basically all the necessary NPCs that we need to talk to. We're not really going to deal with anything with them in the run, but you do still need to talk to them to advance the game. Next we head over to the Agricultural District. And Crimson Line across, and then try to enter Cloaca Maxima, which we can't do. And then we're going to open the mini-map and immediately mash Confirm to work to the Fountain Plaza. This is the part where we're going to start breaking the game. So Crimson Line up here. And then once we get up here, you can either double jump your way up here, which sometimes doesn't work. Let's see. Yeah, you can double jump your way up here, but usually if you want to guarantee it, you jump, attack, well, not downward thrust, jump, attack, and then jump again, and that will basically guarantee that you get up here. So I recommend practicing this jump here, because it's kind of easy to mess up. You just don't get the height, but you want to jump over to this chimney here. The trick to this jump, for me in particular, is that I do a roll at like the very end. And that pretty much guarantees that I'm able to make it over the chimney. I also recommend heavily, especially for newer runners, that you make a save for this, because if you fail this, you lose quite a bit of time. Yeah, like once you get over here, it takes you all the way down here, and we don't want that. So we need to jump over this like invisible barrier keeping us from entering the Shantytown. There are two ways you can do this. The first of which is jump 3 times attack, and then jump 3 times attack, and that will basically guarantee that you get the distance. The problem is, you can easily end up doing a downward slam like that. So, that's not the one, that's not my preferred one, so I'll demonstrate my preferred one in a second. But you can do that as well. So do whichever works best for you, is my suggestion. But normally I just do 2 jumps and then 3 attacks. And that clears it about 90% of the time. Sometimes I don't get quite enough distance. It's a little bit tighter, but it works for me because I don't do the downward slam attack as often. Oops, I pressed the wrong button there. Alright. Yeah. So, you can see what it looks like when I fail it. Oh. I didn't get quite enough distance on that one. So there we go. I personally prefer the latter, but as you can see, it sometimes struggles to get the distance. So we want to roll over to this treasure chest. This gets us a defense elixir, which we're going to sell for money later. Next thing we want to do is jump over to these catwalks. If you fall to the ground, it only loses a small amount of time, but we want to stay up here on the catwalks. Because at the end here, we get our Monstrum form, which moves faster, and we can fall faster as well. And then attack roll cancel for a little bit here. Now, so the thing to keep in mind with this graffiti is you can save a small amount of time by making sure your camera is pointed kind of like looking down and then against the wall here. The enemies kind of spawn, like, depending on where you're facing, so I'll save here to just kind of demonstrate it, but, like, if we're facing this direction, for instance, you see the enemies just spawn way far away, and that's really annoying. However, if we do it like this, they spawn, like, right in front of me, and also in the direction that I want to be going. Oh, it's not quite perfect. Let's see if we can get a better one to demonstrate here.
Let's take 'em out.
Alright, so this is perfect. Alright. Once we kill those guys, we get 20 Nox, which we're going to be exchanging for Twilight Shards later. And then we're going to go into the underground waterway to get into Cloaca Maxima. And since we don't have White Cat, we can't run up that wall there. So instead, we're going to do a bit of a trick to be able to actually enter this area properly. Gonna be running over here, doing a jump, attack, attack, and then attack, attack again, and then doing a crimson line. Your camera angle does matter, but distance matters a lot here. It's kind of tricky and deceptive getting the angle correct. But yeah. So that's what that looks like. Doesn't matter which of these two warp points you get to. When you clear it, you're just like, thank goodness I don't have to do this trick anymore. So, just to demonstrate once more, it can be quite easy to just not get the distance or height or camera angle, so I do recommend practicing this. There we go. Line over here. Attack, roll, cancel. Once we get into the water here, we just want to double jump and then get onto the, like, as much height from here as we can, and then double jump over here. Now, this skip right here, we're going to want to jump as much distance as we can and kind of angle the camera about like so. Once we get 2 jumps off, can you get out of my way? Stupid crap. Once we get 2 jumps in midair across, we're going to be just spamming Crimson Line, and this will allow us to skip past that gate and like 2/3 of this dungeon. Didn't quite get the angle that I wanted, but yeah, this trick can take a few tries to get. There we go. Dash up to here. As a side effect of skipping into this dungeon, the music doesn't play. That's not a computer problem if you're hearing that. That's just how this dungeon happens to be. We're going to Crimson Line up here. And then we are now at the, basically what's supposed to be the final boss of this particular section, but as you can see, the boss doesn't spawn in this room, so this kind of indicates that we have sequence broken this game. And when you sequence break this game, things just don't really get in your way anymore. Alright, so for movement in this portion, once we get out to about here, you want to immediately head over left, and then go up these stairs, and then you want to get this second Crimson Line point up here, jump up here, roll over here, jump onto this ledge here, and then jump across, and then get to about here. Once we get up here, I recommend saving and practicing this a little bit, but you roll, attack, and then roll in midair a couple times, and that will take you to the West Wing depths here once you get out of bounds. The reason you want to do the midair roll is you otherwise just don't get enough distance. Like if you just try this, you'll just go straight through the floor and end up at a portion of this dungeon you kind of don't want to be in. You'll just get lost, and it's quite a bit of a pain to get back up. So roll once you get to like the out of bounds portion, and then do another downward thrust, and then you'll end up in the West Wing depths. This is a chapter 4 area, so we've just sequence broken a lot of this game. Alright, so you make sure you get this warp point. And then we're going to open this door here. We're going to position ourselves to get 3 consecutive Crimson Line dashes, like so. This is going to aggro some enemies, so while you're practicing this and like learning this run, I do recommend making a save load, just because the enemies in this area love to follow you and just snipe you, and you die instantly. You also want to get this blue bandana. Like, get this blue bandana, it saves a lot of trouble. But you can see on the mini-map, the spiders enemies just love to aggro onto me. This time they didn't, but now this guy's been awoken, so if you're too slow, like, or you just see an enemy chasing after you, just make a quick save and then load. It's like a save load looks like this. Like, it takes almost no time at all. Anyways, so the next trick that we are going to do is a cutscene storage trick that happens to work off of this square floor panel on the ground here. This is where it comes in handy to have bound jump and open the menu on the same key. So I'm going to stand on this panel here, and then I'm going to wait for the wall to go down, and I have a kind of visual aid here for what I'm looking for. Basically, there's like a crack on the wall, and when that lines up with a crack like on the side here is usually my cue that we're doing this correctly. So once that's lined up, I press... Oh, the enemy pushed me out of the way. Let's try that again. That can happen. So get on here, wait for it to line up, and then I press the spacebar. Now, the game has just read a jump and a open the menu input on the same frame. The thing about this game's map is every time you open it, it advances the game by like a couple of frames. So we want to open the map twice. When you open the map a second time, you'll hear a jump sound effect. The next thing that you want to do is press down twice to warp to the Fountain Plaza. But you need to do this in rapid succession. If we don't do this and we try to do this trick, once we wait for the load, we are going to hold down the map. But if we don't do this in time, you'll just revert back to your normal form. So I'll demonstrate what it looks like a failed attempt that looks similar to what it does in actual runs. So once we do this, we hold down the map button. You're gonna hear it kind of just go off. And then, yeah, so that means I failed because I turned back into my normal disguise. So this is why speed is important. So I'll demonstrate what this looks like when done correctly. So open the map, and then open it a second time, and then immediately press down twice, confirm, warp, and then once the loading screen is done, hold the map. Yeah, specifically the keyboard for this part. And now, basically everything's in a default setting. You can actually see that I could, in theory, re-trigger this cutscene. It's not a big deal if I do this, just for demonstration. But basically anywhere I go in town that there's a cutscene trigger, it will automatically trigger no matter what part of the game I'm in. And a side effect of this, as you can see here, is that none of the barriers in town are loaded correctly. So we can just do a whole bunch of sequence breaking. In theory, we could just go straight to the end of the game. However, as you can see, I'm level 7 and very under-equipped to deal with the end game. So we're gonna dash up here. Dash down here. Now, ordinarily we want to dash over there, but just to show you, this is where we keep the backup elixir. So if you didn't get the defense elixir in Shantytown, pick this one up. It's a very minor time loss. Alright. Roll over here, dash over here. And we get over here, we're going to get a cutscene, immediately skip that. Make sure you set this warp point in particular. This just happens to be really easy to menu to, because from over here, it's just 1, 2 inputs. And the next thing we're going to do, once we set this warp point and get that cutscene, is head over to the concealed path. And instead of doing this again, which we will do it again, but not right now, we're going to head back into Balduq Prison. Go into this third cell and activate this treasure chest. This ends Chapter 4. This is the trigger to end Chapter 4. But since we're in Chapter 2, it's going to end Chapter 2 instead, so the game's going to be in kind of a janky state. But we want to do this to get us into Chapter 3 because we get some nice things. When you're in Prisoner at all there, You can either open the gate and examine the key, or just examine the key from within the jail cell. It's faster to do so by just examining it through the jail cell. But yeah, the game's kind of like in between Chapter 2 and 4 there. It's kind of weird. Alright, so we got 20 Twilight Shards, which we're going to exchange for some goods. And then now we are in Chapter 3. So we need to talk to a bunch of our crew. So I'm going to go talk to Parks first, because he's the most out of the way. Cancel out of here. Go to the little candle here. Lantern. And then we're going to exchange shards. You want to have 3 Anguished Tears, 4 Thick Hides, 4 Sturdy Shells, and 3 Razor Claws. In practice, because you have a variable amount, my muscle memory is just buy 3 for, and then when we get to the Razor Claw, it doesn't matter how many leftover Twilight Shards we have, so I just tap left and that maxes out. So that's just kind of the optimal menu for that. But you need at least that many. So I usually just buy 3, 4, 4, and then max out. And then we talk to Dogi. We don't need to talk to him for anything. Go over here, and Yufa, if you're doing this quickly, Yufa's usually in a position over here, but because we're doing this kind of slowly, she wandered off. So talk to her. And then head on over to the bar, and this is where Shantae is. And when you're done talking to everybody here, that advances the game enough to where we can start doing things again. Alright, so we're going to warp to the Fountain Plaza. Tilt the camera so that I can Crimson Line up here. And then talk to this shopkeeper.
Hey there, are you
This is where you sell the elixirs that you have.
I appreciate your business.
I mean, I have 3 because I'm demonstrating it, but yeah, you're only going to end up buying 2.
Anything else
Or selling
to
2.
I recommend everything.
So just sell the 2 elixirs that you have because you only need, like, this much money. In fact, you could probably get away with only selling 1 of them, but, like, that makes this a little tighter. So I personally buy 21 black figs here. That just happens to mean that I'll have more than I'll ever need. Just in case things go pear-shaped on the final boss. So next we talk to Shady Man here, aka Maxim. And this is where we exchange all the goods that we picked up for the Twilight Shards. Talk to him again, strike a deal, and buy Violet Gloves. I don't recommend equipping Adol here, so once you buy them, just exit out of the menu. So next thing we do, back to Concealed Path, and we're going to execute the glitch again. Okay, so I've aggroed some spiders here, and they're going to utterly kill me. So I'm going to save and then load. That was the wrong load. Alright. So I saved and loaded to despawn the enemies, and then I'm going to warp here, but we're not going to hold the map this time. Instead, we're going to go into the arena here, and then a cutscene from, like, Chapter 7 is going to play. We just want to hold cancel and mash through text boxes here. We don't want to skip this cutscene. So now that that's done, we want to skip this cutscene, and then talk to Dogi, and this is going to push us into Chapter 5. We're going to get Yufa in the party here. Whatever you do not hit confirm here. If you go into the party here, something unfortunate will happen. So cancel out of this menu ASAP. And I'll explain why that's so darn important here in a second, but I can't really demonstrate it here. Instead, we're going to warp over to the Entertainment District, because that's where we need to go next. And you'll see a bit of an oddity. So we have Yufa in the party, but we also have Anima, or Doll. The thing about Doll is she's not really in our party. And just to kind of demonstrate it here, . if I go into the party and, like, do anything, she's just gone. Like, I cannot put her in the party again. And it is vital. Like, it is absolutely vital that we have her in the party. Because if we don't, we miss the 15% strength bonus that Adol and Doll get for being together, and you're just going to do so much less damage. So the next thing to do is roll over here, and then just buy as many Grottons as you can. And then next we're going to Crimson line up here. I want to get over here. And now this door, or this wall here, this scene right here allows us to use Bull's ability of Valkyrie Hammer. What that doesn't tell you is that we have unlocked everyone else's gifts thus far, which is Third Eye, White Cat's wall run ability, forget what exactly it's called offhand, and then Hunter's Descent, which is really important. Yeah, like... So, this is where we get into why I said to bind Evade and Character Swap to the same button. So when you normally Character Swap in midair, you just fall at a normal speed, but if you have Evade and Character Swap in midair bound to the same button, they fall much slower. Also, if you press that button, the Evade Character Swap button, and then, like, immediately thereafter press your Glide button, or Hunter's Descent, which should be your jump button, you will be able to extend your hover. And this looks something like this. Now, this takes a little bit of getting used to. There's certain instances where it just doesn't want to cooperate, and rather unfortunately, like, if you do this too slowly, your stamina just drops like a rock. So ideally, the way that you can tell that you're doing this correctly is the wings will appear for like an instant and then disappear, like this. And so this preserves stamina while also causing you to not fall while you hover. In fact, you actually gain a very small amount of height if you do this perfectly. Like, you see I'm actually gaining a little bit of height there. Anyways. Wrong input. Now that we have the Grotton, now that we have our abilities, and we have Doll, we're gonna head on over here. And I switch over to Bull here, because she can actually take a hit here. Alright, so perform the trick one more time. Map. And then this time we are going to do the map, so... Once the load's done, hold down map. And then in this map here, we're gonna exit out to the larger map and then warp back to the Fountain Plaza again. Jump up here. And we're gonna get up the cathedral here. Alright. So, thing to keep in mind, Bull and Doll have very different attack cancel animations. Bull's is quite long, whereas Doll's is incredibly short, which makes Doll actually the fastest for movement. And so, in doing all of this, you can see that we are now at the graveyard. We are going to beat the rest of this game. We just skipped from Chapter 2 to Chapter, 8? Or Endgame? I don't remember if it's Chapter 8 or Endgame, what did they call it. But once we get over to here, yeah, you can see that we can just end the game now. Before you open this, seriously, like, run will die if you confirm this too early. make sure that you have the blue bandana and violet gloves equipped to Bull. And then, this won't kill your run, but it does make the run faster before you do this fight. Make sure that you eat one of your cheese gratin, because that ups your experience. Alright, without further ado, now we're back to combat. Very early on in this scenario, I want to use Bull's extra skill, or not extra skill, sorry, boost, because when you're in boost, you take severely reduced damage. We're level 31, and these enemies are like double our level. The main bread and butter combo of this scenario is just using your maximum raid skill, which is default bound to triangle. You can also do Brave Hurricane if you don't quite have enough SP, but you're going to be using maximum raid a lot for the rest of this part. And while you're in your spin animation, you want to be holding down the button that you press, your attack button, I believe, for Valkyrie Hammer, which in my case is square. And so you just kind of loop the two back and forth. So that's going to look something like this. So I don't quite have a boost just yet, but I'm going to be spinning around and then go into boost here, because that severely reduces my risk of dying. And this is where the violet gloves really come in handy. You see that underneath these enemies, there's a meter that's either gray, red, or orange. Sorry, gray, orange, or red. That's kind of the sequence. That's how many layers of poison you applied. And these enemies, the bulk of the damage you're going to do to them is via poison. So yeah, I'm just mixing together a chain of Valkyrie Hammer and Maximum Raid. Do be on the lookout, because some enemies just love to just run away from you. So the thing to keep in mind is these flower enemies are usually the most annoying to kill, but they also have the most telegraphed attacks. Like, they're pretty easy to flash guard. In fact, I often look for an opportunity to flash guard one of their attacks when I see it coming. I'm not getting my guards here at all. Alright. Flash guards are really nice because you don't need to replenish the SP with Valkyrie Hammer as bad. You can actually use 2 maximum raids in a row. Also, killing enemies replenishes enough SP that you can just spam maximum raid again. But yeah, a lot of this part is just managing your SP efficiently. And looking for chances to flash guard. There's 6 waves here, and this is the last one. Your main target for this part, as much as you want to make sure that you're hitting poison on everybody, the main one you want to deal with is this fish guy. In fact, it's actually sometimes worth it to lock onto him. But do keep in mind it's easy to mess this up. But if you die like this, you can just use Black Fig. But this enemy, it's just, he doesn't like to be poisoned. So, you want to apply poison as much as you can. And just, like, keep hitting him, because that pretty much guarantees, or that has the highest chance, I should say, of you getting poison. So, basically, try and keep an eye out for stragglers, but you want to be focusing on the toughest enemies to kill in these parts. Now, in that situation, I actually didn't use my boost, on the last wave because I wanted to conserve it for the for this part here, because you move a lot faster while you're in your boost. So I don't even do like attack roll cancels here. Now, your cheese gratin should last just long enough for you to kill all the enemies here. This big guy is the most annoying one of this mob. Get back here. Now, the indicator that you've killed all the enemies that you need to, which is usually like the 4 enemies at the end of this wave here. Oh, I missed one. This guy here. The indicator that you can move on is the screen kind of goes blurry for a second. So yeah, you saw it go blurry there. And then now I can head over to wave number 2. There's 3 waves here.
We must continue forward, lest we be surrounded.
Once again, the fishman enemy just doesn't like to get poisoned, so he is the primary target. Alright. Alright, so go into boost, roll forward, and the next wave of enemies, the main 2, are going to be this bullhead and this, like, wheelie dude. Just focusing on these 2, you'll like pick up the stragglers just kind of on the wayside anyways.
Everyone doing all right? Just a little more, okay?
Alright, and then now we are into the final dungeon.
We can't afford to stop now.
If you have boost here, you can just use it for movement. It's just going to run out anyways. I'm just a little short on it right now.
What are these things?
So we're going to extended hover over here, because this saves a little bit of time. Now, the perfect thing you can do here
Papa must have created them.
is...
Perhaps I should call them my...
let me make sure. It's a little hard to pull off. What you can do is hit this spike while you fall down to save a little bit of time. Like that. So now I'm on the ground and closer to where I want to go. That's a nice little time save, but if you don't feel comfortable going for that, you can just break the spire here with any character and then just fall down. So we're gonna run up one of these pillars here. You want to run up it, like run directly up it or single jump it, because if you double jump, it makes the next part a little bit trickier. And then we're going to extended hover to get up here. So you want to pick up this War King's Cape here. This will save you so much damn time. And then we're going to hover over here. It doesn't really matter which character you use here. But you want to angle the camera to where you can see on the right there. There is this crimson line point that I can target to, but I'm standing in front of the wall here. Now what I'm going to do is press the button that I have bound to crimson line on my keyboard and open the menu. So it's going to do both inputs at once. Similar to the cutscene storage that we got on the floor panel, when we open the map, the game is going to advance a few frames every time. So next time I open this, you're going to hear Bull either grunt or say something line, her crimson line-like declaration. So yeah, there you go. Now every time we do this, it's going to advance the game a few frames. So we're going to repeatedly open the map until we hear the sound of the crimson line dash going off. There we go. So that's what I want. That's what I want to listen for. And I'm going to open the map about 7 or 8 times, and then save and then load. And that is going to get me out of bounds. If you're running on a resolution other than 1920 by 1080, you'll probably have to open the map a few more times because the way the game kind of advances is a little different on different resolutions. But I'm going to open and close the map 7 times and then save. And then we're going to load, and I'm going to be out of bounds. Or not. Looks like I messed this up. Oh wait, no, I loaded the wrong save file because this game was weird. Oh, not sure what's going on there. Alright, let's try this again. That was very strange. Three, 4, 5, 6, 7. Alright, now I'm out of bounds. Thankfully, if you start falling here too quickly, you have a save that you just made a new save that you can load. So we're going to load that, and then we're going to extend and hover while out of bounds. And then when we want to get over here, I'm going to demonstrate a couple of different things that you can do here. The optimal strat is to just go for it from this position, but there is a couple backups if you find that you're struggling with extended hovers. So, double jump and then just extended hover all the way to the big room in the center of this area. When stamina gets low, you want to mash the evade character swap button, which again is my R1 button. And this is just going to allow me to replenish enough stamina. So you need to be have about this much height that you can fall back in bounds through about here. Alright, so that's one successful way to do this, and that's generally about the optimal way, but if you are struggling to get height, this way usually helps. So we instead loop around to this portion of out-of-bounds territory. There's a bit of janky collision that you can get on from up here, and then we run up the wall here. Running a little low on stamina, so I'm just going to replenish it. So I'm going to make a save here just because I want to demonstrate something. You don't need to worry about this. But yeah, so we have more than enough height to just kind of cruise through here. But now, what happens if you just mess this up and you don't want to load your save? Or you're just really struggling to get this trick down? Well, there's an alternative here as well. Let's say you're about this height and you just know you can't get enough height. Well, what you can do is kind of go through the intended door here. There's a kind of extended backup and it loses a fair bit of time, but if you just, want to be able to do runs, you don't want to practice that trick, or you don't quite have a great grasp of that trick, there is a backup you can do in this room as well to get up there. So make sure your stamina's at full, and then you jump, run up here. You only have to do a couple extended hovers here, and this is way more forgiving. And you just run up here. Next up, get on this pillar here. Go over here. Run up this wall here, and then we want to get onto this this platform right here. There's a very minimal amount of collision that you can work with. Then we're going to run up this pillar until we can't get any more height. Go up here. And then now you should have enough height to just make it across. Alright, anyways. So those are the 3 different ways that you can make it to this platform. So the next thing we're going to do is head to the room in the center. So roll over here, and that allows us to get us enough distance to get Crimson Line over there. Get this warp point. Once again, these warp points are very valuable. Before advancing, you want to go to this treasure chest and get the sacred branches here, because those are going to be useful for making the best weapon that we can have access to. And then hover over here. Make sure you have enough stamina when you get to the top here for a little bit of time. It's not crucial, but it does save you a little bit of time. Pick up the soul spar here, Crimson Line over here, and then charge up your Valkyrie hammer to break this crystal and be able to move on.
It's my turn.
That all just locked onto a nearby enemy, so I missed. Alright. For this part, since there's a slope, you're just gonna glide. Make sure you have enough stamina at the end, though.
What's going on here?
Now this is fascinating.
Come, you two. We must
So,
proceed.
next we're gonna fly up here. And then you're going to want to get the mythical blueprints out of this chest. The next thing we need to do is get a Netherworld core. Now, since we don't have Cat who can steal it off the enemies here, we need to get it out of the treasure chest. So you run up here, and we're going to do another skip. I'll demonstrate kind of the difficult way to do this skip and the safer backup way to do this skip. So you're going to jump up here, run up here, and then we're going to extended hover our way over to this this platform here, run up here. Just barely didn't have enough stamina. This can be quite difficult to clear, so this is a bit of a riskier way to go for it. I'm looping in a circle just to make sure I get enough height for this, and I'm failing it. That's annoying. Yeah, this is why this is the harder of the 2 strats. It's really easy to just loot, not have enough stamina for it. There. Hold on one. Sorry for the little pause there, but yeah, that's how you get this. Sorry, I had a phone call. The alternative. It's a much safer strategy here, so let me go ahead and just get this set up here. So, preferably stamina max. So instead, we're going to run up here, and then once we get over here, we're going to jump up here, should be able to clear up there, and then just jump over here. That'll cost you like 5 to 10 seconds over the faster strategy, but it is an option for like newer runners. But now that we have the Netherworld core out of this treasure chest, the next thing we do is go to the map and then just You should have, in my case, it's this option button, but you should have a button that you can press that will automatically warp you to the Dandelion basement. So once we're here, go over to Tito, and he is going to make us the best weapon in the game. Or at least the best weapon that we, like, reasonably have access to. So, craft legendary weapon. Now, the important thing is do not be mashing here. I don't want to make it for Yufa. He does not have a "Are you sure?" prompt. So if you pick a weapon for Adol, good luck. Alright, so you make a weapon for Yufa here, and then we're going to warp back into the final dungeon, and then we're going to immediately do a skip here. Make sure that you have a Crimson Line point active and you're facing against the wall here, and then press the button you have bound to Crimson Line and menu. So now that we've heard that sound, we're going to be doing this 5 times. It can be slightly more if your resolution is not 1920 by 1080, but yeah. 2, 3, 4, 5, save, and load. And we'll have clipped successfully into this barrier here. So this save's having to do all the different wings of the final dungeon here. Alright, so once we get to this door, these next steps are very important. Go into items, feed the Tempest Elixir to Bull, use the Cheese Gratin because we will get EXP for the first phase of the final boss, and then you're going to want to equip the weapon that you picked up here because that ups her strength a ton, remove her armor, and then exchange the Violent Gloves for the War King's Cape. We still want the blue bandana, but you specifically don't want armor because you actually want to sandbag in this fight. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. So there's going to be a scene here that cancel isn't going to be able to skip. So I'll instead have to press the options button. And that just skips that, and then skip this event, and then now we're on to Atra Nox Philius. You're going to be hitting him with a lot of the same skill, but you really want to see him do this attack here because he just shreds your HP. And also make sure you're locked on. Anyways, now that we're at low HP, we're going to continually do a loop here of... I was trying to go for the flash guard there. Continually do a loop of Bull's extra skill, Taurus Slam, I believe is what it's called. What is it called? Taurus Impact. We're just going to spam this, and then every time we do that, it's going to get us enough SP to use Maximum Raid, and then that's going to loop and give us enough boost meter to use Taurus Impact again. So a thing to keep in mind while doing this, I don't have my hand on my joystick unless I'm moving. And this causes Bull to just lock onto the nearest target. And flash guards in this fight are very good. Not only do they boost your damage, but they replenish your SP, so... And if you do it right, you should be able to get you should be able to get 2 Taurus impacts and 2 maximum raids. But yeah, this guy hits kind of hard, so if we run out of HP here, that is the reason why we have all the black figs. Whatever you do, don't let your boost go on too long because you replenish HP every time you do it, which is one of very few times that that's actually, like, not to the benefit of the player. Alright, and that's the boss down. Alright, on to Anima Ergastulum, which, let's get the scenes here. This fight stinks. It's bad, it's not very good, it's not very fun, it's not particularly well designed, and I don't like it. But they have to go through it. The first phase is going to be a bit of sandbagging, although he doesn't have very many attacks that, like, do particularly good damage to us, which is unbefitting of a final boss. But yeah, so you're going to want to get in between these two and just spam maximum raid and Valkyrie Hammer. Trying to hit multiple targets if you can, because their hitboxes are fairly wide. This staff attack is what you want to see. Because these are going to explode and do, like, 1800 damage. But most of his attacks just don't do much damage. But since we have the Workings Cape equipped, we just do a lot of damage for this part. Alright, so you get all 5 parts there. You jump up here. And then 1 extra skill is, like, enough to do 2/3 of this part's health. Alright, so that's phase 1 down. If you do extra skill on that phase, do it fast, because you don't want the HP regen. So this is a good position to be in going into phase 2. We have enough health that we can survive a couple of hits without having to use a black fig, while also being low enough that we actually, like, are getting most of the Workings Cape benefits. Alright, so this part we're going to use Third Eye and just go back and forth trying to hit the correct one. This is, like, one of very few parts of the run that is RNG. This is unfortunate. Come on. Do the thing! Do the thing! There we go. Alright. So now that he's on the ground, we can finally hit him. His attacks are pretty well telegraphed, so you can get flash guards. I got hit while trying to flash guard, so that didn't work out, but yeah.
Persistent bastards! Die already!
Well, this was a mistake, but whatever. Alright, so next up, phase 2. Alright, I got... Oh, this is unfortunate. Yeah, this part is a lot meaner because he has a lot more attacks that can, like, just one-shot you when you're at 100 HP. So phase 2 is just kind of more of the same. Alright, and that's Anima or Ergastulum. Skip this event, and then just pile on the egg.
Its light is a beacon of hope. You've always been able to find it, haven't you?
This part, I just wail on the egg.
I'm so happy I had a chance to see you again.
But this is more or less auto-scrollery portion. It just takes place on its own. I believe hitting the egg makes it go a little faster, but I don't know by how much.
Courage lies in all humans. After all, you freed me from my eternal fate.
Yes. Think of this as our duty. All that you have done for us.
Also flashing light warning, just
You'll always
if that last boss wasn't overkill enough on the eyes. So now we just need to, say goodbye to everybody. So skip a few scenes here. Try to leave the dandelion. Thing to note, since we are in like both Endgame and Chapter 4, because the game was kind of in between chapters, you'll see there's 2 doggies. So that is not my game being weird. That just happens as a result of these. All right, so leave for town, and then right here we can actually warp to Pendleton. This is the only warp that we can do during this part, and unless it's optimal. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope if you are at all interested in the run, give it a try. It's actually a pretty fun run to do. If you have any questions, we do have a Discord. The link to it, I will link in the description, but it's also available on speedrun.com/ I believe our page is YSIX, but you can just look up East9 on speedrun.com. So we skip these scenes here, and then once we skip the credits here, when the end shows up, that is time. But yeah, be interested to see if anyone is interested in learning this run. I think it's a lot of fun to do. If you have any questions, you can ask me, you can ask Jado, who is another runner of this game, currently has the record. You can look up JADDO on YouTube and East9 and find his current world record video. He's also found a lot of the glitches that we use in this run and knows a lot about the tech. But in any case, thanks for watching. Hope you learned something, and I will have timestamps in the video for everything that we've discussed here. Thank you.